about LeBron James and Paul George and all the big name guys. But there's other guys here too. Players who you need to fill out a roster. And there's some guys that are making money that is, quite frankly, dubious. And I say dubious at best. I say dubious at best because the NBA is a league that makes no sense. You have teams taking risks on guys to try and be one of the better teams in the league. And it's a weird league because you end up trying to avoid NBA purgatory. NBA purgatory is when you're good enough to not be a lottery team, but you're not good enough to do anything in the playoffs. You're not good enough to really make the playoffs consistently. So you're good enough to just be okay. And then the NBA's got a very Ricky Bobby mentality. If you're not first, you're last. If you're not competing for a title, nobody cares about you. If you're not a contender, you don't matter. And we treat teams like this all the time in the NBA, right? Like it's the reason why teams would rather, and you look at the Atlanta Hawks, they're a perfect example of this. Teams would rather blow up their whole team than try and slowly build over time because there's more of a reward in trading away all of your players and trying to draft new ones to get in a position where you are a contender, where an actual title might be in your future. That's where the NBA is. That's what the NBA does. And it leads to, quite frankly, some very interesting free agency signings. So one of the big ones that happened over the weekend was Kyle Anderson to the Memphis Grizzlies, getting paid $37 million over the next 4 seasons. And this is way too much money for Kyle Anderson, who averaged a whole 7.6 points a game last year. Now, as a starter, I imagine he's going to play a whole lot better. He is a good ball player, right? Kyle Anderson can score. I like his style. His nickname is Slow-Mo, and he lives up to that. He moves very slowly and somehow is able to put the ball in the basket. I think he's a talented shooter. I like Kyle Anderson a lot. I do not like Kyle Anderson as my starting wing player for $37 million over the next 4 years. I just don't like it, in large part because Kyle Anderson is a useless defender. He is bad at playing defense in the worst kind of way. And so when I look at Kyle Anderson, I go, how is it that the Memphis Grizzlies thought this was a great idea? Kyle Anderson was a restricted free agent. The San Antonio Spurs had the ability to match the $37.2 million, and they opted not to do it because it's $37.2 million for Kyle Anderson. I mean, the Spurs might be in a bit of a free fall right now. They might be struggling with the Kawhi Leonard thing right now, but they're not crazy. But the Grizzlies are crazy. The Grizzlies are nuts. And Marc Gasol is, by the way, is on the fence as to whether or not he's going to come back and be a Memphis Grizzly. And the quote that came from Marc Gasol was, well, I'm torn. I'm torn between my love of Memphis and wanting to win. That's where the Grizzlies are. The Grizzlies are trapped in NBA purgatory. That's where they are. That's where they currently live. They have a player who is aging, and he loves the city. He loves Memphis. Memphis basketball fans are great fans. That's a great fan base. But when you look at what this team is, it can't compete for a title. It sometimes doesn't compete to make the playoffs. So going out and signing Kyle Anderson for $37 million, maybe you think that that's what it takes to get Marc Gasol and keep him, you trying to make some kind of championship push. But I'm telling you right now, Kyle Anderson does not a championship team make. It just doesn't. And that's curious. But it's not even as curious as the next person on my list, who also was signed over the weekend, one Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine, who, by the way, has the second greatest, let me not be ridiculous, the second greatest NBA slam dunk contest in recent memory, right? Like we talk about the Vince Carter winning the slam dunk contest, that one is going to be the best one. But Zach LaVine jumping from the free throw line, wearing the Michael Jordan Space Jam Toon Squad jersey. I mean, a whole lot of things happen in that slam dunk contest. Zach LaVine is a freak athlete when he's healthy. He is stellar to watch. And outside of maybe LeBron, maybe Russell Westbrook, Zach LaVine might actually be a top 5, top 3 athletic guy in the league. Just in terms of pure athleticism, can jump out of the building, incredible speed. But Zach LaVine is not a $78 million a year basketball player. And the Chicago Bulls will be paying him $78 million over the next 4 years. The Kings tried to do it. Now, we have an issue, too, where the Bulls and the Kings are two very bad organizations. They're terrible, absolutely dreadful. The Bulls, I don't know if the Bulls are worse, but they're cheap. And the Kings are just poorly run constantly. They just hemorrhage talent. They draft talented guys and still mismanage it. They're no good. So the Kings actually offered Zach LaVine, who's a restricted free agent, the $78 million to go. And the Bulls matched the offer because the Bulls are equally as bad an organization and they are equally as poorly run. And they traded away their star last year, Jimmy Butler. They traded away Jimmy Butler for nothing. For Zach LaVine and some Skittles. They traded him away and they didn't get anything back. And the thing that I find the most interesting is that I think the Bulls feel like they have to make the Zach LaVine deal work in order for them to say that they've gotten something for Jimmy Butler. Otherwise, they just traded Jimmy Butler away for no good reason. I know he was on the last year of his deal. I know that teams get scared when a guy's on the last year of his deal because you don't want him to walk away in free agency for nothing, so you'd rather trade him and get something back, but then actually get something back. The risk that you took with Zach LaVine didn't make any sense, and Zach LaVine is coming off an ACL injury, which is an injury that we have learned how to fix. People come back from ACL injuries and their careers are fine these days. But still, it's not a guarantee that you come back from an ACL injury and you are 100% okay. Zach LaVine, coming off an ACL injury, $78 million over 4 years. Hey, if you feel like you've got the money, but I thought the Bulls were trying to tank. I mean, Zach LaVine might make you good enough to stay in NBA purgatory, but he's not going to make you a contender. He's not even going to make you a playoff team. I say let him walk. Keep your young player that you drafted last year, Lauri Markkanen. He did show some signs of life. I think you got to go with him and just let Zach LaVine go to the Kings and let the Kings sign the awful bog you down contract if they absolutely want to. But no, the Chicago Bulls are the Chicago Bulls. And so they went ahead and matched the contract. And now they have Zach LaVine, who before his ACL injury, was a terrible defender. Let me give you some numbers on how bad a defender one Zach LaVine was. Zach LaVine, according to ESPN's Real Plus Minus stat, was ranked 441st out of 446 qualifying players in the NBA in terms of terrible defense. This puts him behind guys we know can't play defense, like Marco Bellinelli, Nick Stauskas, and James Harden. Right? James Harden, the biggest flaw of his game is that he's a bad defender. Zach LaVine's worse. Zach LaVine is inherently a worse defender than James Harden. Now, James Harden is an efficient offensive scorer, MVP of the league. So that works, right? If you can be a useless defender, if you are efficient offensively, and like I said, the three guys that I named on this list who are ahead of Zach LaVine, Harden, Stauskas, Bellinelli, are three guys so allergic to defense, they'd break out in hives if they tried to play it. So I look at that and I go, these guys can score. Bellinelli, great scorer. Stauskas is a shooter. He's hit or miss, but Harden, one of the best and most efficient scorers in the NBA today. Zach LaVine, not so much. Zach LaVine shoots below 50% inside the restricted circle, which is that circle that is, 2 feet away from the basket. It's 2 feet away. He shoots below 50%, which, again, puts him at near the bottom of the league. So Zach LaVine, who can't shoot threes, does not really shoot well from mid-range, and quite frankly is horrible at scoring around the basket, is going to be making $78 million over the next 4 seasons. Wow. All I have to say is wow. And this brings me to the last person, because he hasn't proven he could do anything in the league because he is a child. Devin Booker. Devin Booker's 21 years old. And over the next 5 seasons, Devin Booker stands to make, and you might want to sit down for this one, $158 million, which Kevin Durant signed a 1-year deal with the Golden State Warriors and is going to make $60 million a year. Kevin Durant, best one-on-one scorer in the league. And if anyone asks you, okay, who are the best current players in the NBA? You're going to say LeBron 1 if you're sane, and you're going to say Durant 2. And Devin Booker, who is 21 years old and has shown that he's a very talented player and he's a brilliant scorer, though he's also on that allergic to defense list. He can play. I'm not here to trash Devin Booker, but the guy can really play. But you're going to be paying him more than Kevin Durant for the next 5 years. That can't be good. I don't know how that works out if you're the Suns, but the Suns are forced into this position because the NBA is a funny league where you are stuck in NBA purgatory. The Suns aren't even in NBA purgatory. They're just bad. But they need Devin Booker to get to the top. The NBA is a sport. You have 1 or 2 stars that really control the fate of your entire franchise. And there's only 2 ways to get them. One way is to go and sign the guy in free agency. You go out, you're the Warriors, you sign Kevin Durant. You're the Lakers, you sign LeBron. The other is to draft the guy. To go out there and do your homework, have your scouts do the best that they can do, and then also be so bad that you get to pick in the top 3 and just draft a guy who is franchise changing. That's all you've got if you want to get one of the handful of stars in the NBA who can control a franchise. And for better or for worse, the Suns are stuck in a position where they have to pay Devin Booker like he's that guy. I can't even blame the Suns. I want to stand here and tell you it's insane for them to do this. I want to stand here and tell you that it makes no sense. Devin Booker's not really a great defender. We don't even know how good of a player Devin Booker is because Devin Booker is on a squad that is surrounded, they just surrounded him with bad players. Like PJ Tucker's old and not any good anymore. And they surrounded him with really bad players. And they're trying to draft and build a team around him. But until they build a team around him, how good is Devin Booker really? I mean, it's certainly not good enough for you to take that risk this early. But if you're the Suns, what choice do you have? You're not a free agent destination. The free agent destinations are going to always be the big market. You can be New York. You can be the Knicks and be terrible for 20 years and have a chance at landing a Carmelo Anthony. You can be the Lakers and be terrible for 5 or 6 years and still have a chance at landing a LeBron. You can't be Phoenix and do that because of all the teams in the NBA. You simply don't have the allure, the attractiveness. It's just not there. And so you draft a guy who could potentially be that kind of player for you. And the words of praise that guys like Kevin Durant and LeBron James and Kobe Bryant have given Devin Booker, who once scored 63 points in a game, I believe. After that game, the praise came rolling in from all of these guys. And you go, okay, well, what does Kevin Durant know about basketball? Well, a lot. So does Kobe. So does LeBron. I think their advice counts for something. And you take the chance, you roll the dice, because what other option do you have? I think you pay Devin Booker the money that you can try and give him, and you go on about the business of building around this young guy and hoping that he wasn't just putting up big numbers on a bad team, which happens all the time. We saw it with Kevin Love when he was in Minnesota. Kevin Love in Minnesota was a guy that you'd wonder why he wasn't an all-star more often. He had all-star level numbers. Went to Cleveland, disappeared. It's not that Kevin Love became a bad basketball player. It's because his numbers were inflated. When he's the only option to score, he's going to be able to take more shots. When he's the guy that's the only big guy on the team that's competent and wouldn't just trip over his own feet, he's going to get all the rebounds. And Kevin Love is a competent basketball player, but I don't think that anyone would question when you look at Kevin Love's contract and he's set to make about $20 million this year, that he's being paid entirely too much money. But he got paid on a contract where he was a good player on a bad team. And you want to try and figure out which guy that is before you back up the Brinks truck and give him all of that money. But you're the Phoenix Suns, and you've got a guy, you know he can score. All the great players in the game like him, and you've got him at 21 years old. I think the only course of action that the Suns had was to do this, because if you let this guy get away, you let Devin Booker walk and go anywhere else, and he becomes a good player. He fits into an offense and isn't a good player, but a great player. And maybe he turns out to be the transcendent talent you thought he could be, and you had the opportunity to pay him, and you didn't pay him. Outside of even being the laughingstock of the league, the draft doesn't give you that many do-overs. I mean, we have to admit something when we talk about the NBA draft. There are very few surefire bets in the NBA draft. You know guys are coming from college. You know some of them are great. You know some of them are talented. But what you don't know is which guy is going to be the next LeBron, right? Like that's what we're all looking for. And when LeBron came into the league, it was obvious. But when Kobe came into the league, it wasn't obvious. Because if it was, the Hornets who originally drafted Kobe wouldn't have traded him to the Lakers on draft day. They wouldn't have traded him. It's not obvious who's going to be great and who isn't going to be great. And we have to just admit the fact that we're all guessing. And if you have a guy who's able to score the way Devin Booker can score in the NBA, I think you've just got to take the shot. I think you've got to take the shot. I don't know that that's fair. And that's why it's weird to lump Devin Booker in with these other two guys, because I really think that the Zach LaVine signing makes no sense. I would not pay Zach LaVine $78 million. He's not worth it. Just the way that he plays offense and defense and how horribly inefficient he is at both, I wouldn't do it. And Kyle Anderson is a bad defender. He's a solid offensive player, but you're paying a guy $37 million to give you 16 points a game and maybe some cool high fives on the bench. I don't know that helps you enough. And that to me is a risk whenever I see the Spurs didn't match the offer sheet for Kyle Anderson to stay. And so Kyle Anderson got to go to Memphis. If the Spurs don't want it, I usually take that as an indication of something's up here. They know something that I don't know. So I thought that was way too much money for Kyle Anderson. But in the case of the Devin Booker thing, he's the homegrown talent. He's the guy that they've had all this time. And if he leaves, I mean, what do you got if you're the Suns? I know you drafted Josh Jackson last year, and you're hoping he's going to help. I know you drafted DeAndre Ayton this year, and so you're going to have a long defensive team. The fact that Devin Booker is a bad defender maybe doesn't hurt you so much in the fact that you've got DeAndre Ayton, who should be an elite level rim protector, and you've got Josh Jackson, who's a wing defender and a shutdown kind of guy who can also shoot threes at the other end. So you've got the length defensively that maybe if Devin Booker's not good, you can just hide him on different places, the way the Warriors hide Steph, because Steph is small and can't defend guys like Russell Westbrook every single night. So you just hide Steph on whoever the actual worst offensive player is and hope that he doesn't get burned too much. And I think you can do that with Devin Booker if you're the Suns. But what you can't do is let the guy walk away, even if the numbers look silly. And $158 million to a 21-year-old kid, it does look silly. But what other choice do you got? You're listening to All New Nuga Radio and NugaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. Clutch with Keon Rose. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I got one more DeMarcus Cousins idea. Why is he going to the Warriors? You guys blame the Warriors. You blame the league. I know who you should be blaming. Next.
Traffic, news, and information. Nuga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chatter, Nuga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
The body of a 24-year-old Virginia man was recovered Saturday night in Tennessee. Hector Perez was last seen alive on a pontoon boat in Jefferson County. Reports say he jumped off to swim to shore when he started to struggle and disappeared below the surface. Divers recovered his body 3 days later. Lake Winnie closed a ride down for repairs when it stopped with riders on board. Reports say the Sea Warrior ride suddenly stopped for 5 minutes with several people on board. This is Lake Winnie's third issue this year. And scam alert. The Tennessee American Water Company wants customers to know that when coming to a private resident or business to perform work, their employees will present a photo ID badge and drive work vehicles that prominently display the company's name. There's been a problem with fake TAWC employees asking to perform a water quality check inside a home and then demanding payment for the service. Val St. John for Nuga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News now.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nuga Radio, 92.7 FM.
Chattanooga weather.
Expect fair skies to continue through your nighttime. A little muggier overnight, lows 70 to 72. For Tuesday and Wednesday, a little more typical summertime weather returns. A few isolated, mainly afternoon showers and storms. Otherwise, some sunshine, hot and humid, highs 90 to 92. Tired of the pressures and hassles of car shopping? Come see what more people are making the short drive to Jackson Chevrolet Buick GMC in Lafayette or online at jacksongm.com. That's Jackson Chevy Buick GMC in Lafayette. And I'm Soren G12, Chief Meteorologist and Actor 4.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
I got my business up and running and it's already expanding. I got lucky. Lucky because I found Signal Voice and Data. Signal Voice and Data can incorporate all of my business information sharing and communications seamlessly, keep my costs down, and let me work more productively with endless connectivity no matter where I might be. That's called working smart, not hard. Go to signalvoicetn.com and bring the future of communication to your business today. Signalvoicetn.com.
Hey, dude, check this out. Have you ever seen one so big?
Whoa, look at the size of that.
Look at this little itty-bitty one.
Wow, that's really small.
They have them big, small, and everything in between. You'll always find the biggest variety of knives at the knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. We're talking about over 40 brands of knives, including Benchmade, WR Case & Sons, Booker, and all the Frost Cutlery brands. Now, Sam, you've been to the cutlery shop. Is it amazing?
Spectacular. The knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. They have knives, swords, kitchen knives, ammo, and reloading supplies, plus survival gear.
It's the knife shop at Frost Cutlery. They're open 7 days a week. Hey, girls, you're going to love this. We're going to the knife shop. Hey, let's not tell them they have ammo and loading supplies. The knife shop at Frost Cutlery opens 7 days a week. You'll always find the biggest variety of knives. You're going to love the knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. The knife shop.
And tell them David Toulis sent you.
Do you hear that? That, my friend, is not what you're thinking. That is the new 2018 Indian Chieftain Dark Horse. Yeah, Indian. Indian motorcycle is more than a bike. It's an experience, an American icon. And Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga is the only place you'll find their new 2018 line. Are you ready to ride? Join the club. Go to Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga. Just look for the sign, 153 and Anicola. Indian Motorcycle, the true American original.
You want more business. You want to increase your bottom line. You want to spend less on advertising, imaging your business, and general expenses. You need Trade Bank. When you join Trade Bank, you'll get the benefit of free advertising in our monthly magazine, tradebank.com, emails, and mailouts. Join Trade Bank now and receive your Trade Bank debit card with trade credits to spend any way you want. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call now for a free consultation. 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga.
Chattanooga Paint and Decorating would like to remind you it's so hot out there. And guess what? Your deck is taking a beating. It's probably starting to show wear. If you're hosting friends for the 4th, get your deck entertainment ready with a fresh coat of stain and protect it from heat, sun, and rain with a quality sealant. If you want to get to work, Chattanooga Paint and Decorating want to help you. For exterior paint, stains, sealants, and supplies, stop by Chattanooga Paint and Decorating today on Hicks and Pike across from Valvoline or online at ChattanoogaPaint.com.
Nuga Radio.
Are you brain dead? Still voting for pathetic liberals? Take 3 hours of Sean Hannity from 3 to 6.
Nuga Radio.
Then call us in the morning between 9 and 11.
92.7.
Nuga Radio.
Hello, Chattanooga. You're listening to All New Nuga Radio, NugaRadio.com. Here on 92.7 FM. NBA Summer League is around, and I don't watch it that much. I used to be really hyped about Summer League, and now I'm less entertained by the idea of watching guys that I just watched in college play in the Summer League. Granted, some of them are worth it. Some of the games are, and I've been keeping an eye on Trae Young, and I've got a Trae Young update for you. But Summer League, I watch it on my phone sometimes, and it doesn't look as interesting as it should look, and that's bizarre. Part of it is that Summer League, even when you're watching it on TV, even when you're watching it on NBA TV, which is allegedly in HD, it looks like someone filmed it on a webcam. And it's clearly not the highest quality basketball. You know, it's just kind of hard to get into Summer League. But one thing has been absolutely fun about Summer League, and that has been the young man Kevin Knox, who has been dunking on every human being in sight. And I didn't know that you could have that in Summer League, just that level of excitement, right? The last time I was excited about Summer League, the Wizards just drafted John Wall. I'm a Wizards fan, so to me, that was very interesting. John Wall, human fast break. He's a human one-man fast break. He just gets up the floor, and he was way too fast for all those other Summer League dudes, and so nobody could stop him, and that was really, really fun to see. Yeah, every other Summer League since then, I don't know. They've been hit and miss, and there are guys that I like, guys that I don't like, but I haven't been excited to watch it. But Kevin Knox has been getting me incredibly interested in the Summer League, if not to see him perform the monster mash on whoever is standing under the basket. Honestly, if you're underneath the basket and you see Kevin Knox coming, just go. Just go. Just let that guy do what he wants to do, because you're not going to stop him. It doesn't appear that anybody's figured out how to stop him. And I know that can't continue into the NBA, but it is at least really, really cool, the idea that Kevin Knox is just out here throwing it down on suckers. The other thing about the Summer League, of course, is Trae Young. He's an Atlanta Hawk. Trae Young is the most interesting NBA prospect to me. He's clearly not the best, but he is the most interesting because I think he was very much hyped, and I was overhyped because people were comparing him to Steph Curry, which isn't fair. He's smaller than Steph. His handles aren't as good as Steph's. People were comparing him to Jason Kidd, which again isn't fair. He's got great vision, but Jason Kidd was at a master level even coming into the league. This is not the same. I don't think it's fair to compare Trae Young to Jason Kidd, to compare him to Steph. But he was. And rightly or wrongly, those comparisons are out there in the ether. And Trae Young has to live up to them. And so far in Summer League, and I understand how goofy it is to say that a guy has not lived up to expectations in Summer League, it's Summer League. But hear me out. So far in Summer League, he hasn't been good. He's been terrible. He takes 30-foot shots 2 seconds into a shot clock. He's missed open jumpers. He gets the ball stolen from him all the time. Even though he's a brilliant passer in terms of understanding the angles on the floor, a lot of times in these games, he hasn't been a willing passer. It doesn't make any sense, and he's looked terrible. But he had a pretty good game in that last Summer League game that Atlanta had, and I think that there's some signs of hope. There's some things that you can look forward to there. He scored 20 points. He started making some of those open shots that he was missing. I think Trae Young is going to have, when he has an actual NBA squad around him, a much better rookie season than the Summer League would dictate, because obviously he comes in, he's the best player on the team. He's the most heavy attention getter, and he's going to get that extra attention from defenses, from other coaching staffs, and rightfully so. But if he can work on his decision making when he gets an actual NBA squad around him, do I think that he's going to be a transcendent rookie player? No, I think that Trae Young, because of the way that he plays, is going to struggle quite a lot early on. But I do think that he has this opportunity, and it's a very rare opportunity. I think Trae Young has an opportunity to really show what the NBA game can be like when you have unlimited range. Steph gives you that all the time. But Steph gives you that on a team that's good. the Hawks aren't good. Can a guy that plays that way give you a taste of, can he lift a team with that being really his only skill set? I don't know. But I think Trae Young is going to give us an opportunity to see that. He's a small player. He's undersized. He's going to get beat up a lot. Can he overcome that? Trae Young is interesting in so many different ways that when I watch Summer League, even though a lot of times he's not the best player on the floor, he wasn't better than Grayson Allen the other night when they played the Jazz. And even though sometimes he makes the poorest decisions on the floor, he's still the most interesting player because we don't know what he is and what he can be and what his skill set will actually give him in the NBA. I mean, Nick LaFew, who is an Atlanta fan, and I think just by default, they're the closest NBA team, he's convinced that Trae Young's a bust. And we talk about this all the time. I'm not so sure he's a bust. I know it's going to be hard on him. I know it's going to be an uphill battle. But I think that Trae Young can be something special. But it's going to take time. It's going to take time. I don't think you really have a choice with him. You have to wait. You have to be patient. Can Atlanta wait for him to develop? Wait for him to put on weight. Wait for that jumper to start to fall. The Lakers did it with Lonzo. The people were worried about Lonzo, and Lonzo, by the way, has the ugliest looking jumper in the league. Just all elbows in front of his face. It's a nightmare. Any shooting coach will tell you, you don't even have to be a shooting coach. In fact, you don't need a shooting coach. You just need your own eyes. Watch Lonzo Ball shoot and cringe for me. He's got an ugly jumper, but the shots go in. And the Lakers waited for those shots to go in, and you got to see a better Lonzo Ball. Trae Young, if he starts off and he's shooting badly, do Atlanta fans get restless? Does the organization get restless? Because he's not going to defend anybody well. He's too small. Trae Young provides a very, very interesting thread into the NBA and into the Atlanta Hawks. A very interesting thread. You're listening to all new Nuga Radio and NugaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. Travis Pastrana recreated some of those Evel Knievel stunts from the past, specifically the ones where Evel Knievel jumped over a bunch of buses and jumped over like 50 cars. Travis Pastrana did the jump dressed as Evel Knievel with pyrotechnics going off, and quite frankly, it was exciting to watch. It was very exciting to watch. I didn't watch Evel Knievel make those jumps because that happened in 1973, and I was not yet an idea. So I didn't see them, but I remember being a kid and watching those jumps be rebroadcast. I think they were rebroadcast on ABC for whatever reason. And that was amazing to me. I mean, you talk about filling a kid's head with wonder. That was amazing to me what Evel Knievel did. And Travis Pastrana is the perfect guy to do it. He is the reincarnation of your 1970s stunt guy. Travis Pastrana is a crazy person. I have seen Travis Pastrana. He was in a Red Bull commercial, and there's no CG with this, okay? This was real footage. Travis Pastrana chugs a Red Bull and then jumps out of a plane with no parachute. None. You understand? Out of a plane. I won't jump out of bed without a parachute. Travis Pastrana jumps out of a plane with no parachute whatsoever. And then later, another guy with a parachute jumps out of the plane, grabs Pastrana, straps him in midair. But you've got to be out of your gourd if you think that that's a good idea. I mean, I won't jump out of a plane with a parachute. I'm not one of these people. I'm not a thrill seeker. I don't skydive. Being on the radio is enough for me. I'm not jumping out of a plane. Travis Pastrana, no parachute, out of a plane. So when I look at him do these Evel Knievel stunts, I know that it's impressive, and I am impressed. And it does bring back that air of nostalgia for watching that when it was rebroadcast when I was a kid. But man, I've seen him do crazier. I've seen Travis Pastrana do crazier. Travis Pastrana is a man who, in his spare time, races rally car. Travis Pastrana takes time off from his currently dangerous job as an extreme sports athlete to do another dangerous job, rally car. And when he's not doing that, apparently he's jumping out of airplanes without a parachute. Travis Pastrana. He's insane. The guy is actually nuts. He's actually nuts. And I don't know what to do about it. I mean, I watch and I fear for him. Like when I say I'm going to do something vaguely risky with my life choices, my mom will call me and go, "Are you sure about that?" Like I told my mom I wanted to go into radio, and my mom was like, "Why don't you get a real job?" What does Travis Pastrana's mom think when he jumps out of planes? When he's jumping, 16 Greyhound buses on a motorcycle? Which, by the way, he landed with plenty of room to spare. What does his mom think? I don't know, but it can't be good thoughts. But what kind of parent do you have to be? You have to have nerves of steel. If you have a child that grows up to do that, what were they like as a child? What kind of parent do you have to be in order to raise that child so that they are genuinely themselves, but also still alive when they're an adult? I don't know. It's a bizarre thing. It's such a bizarre thing to watch the stuff that Travis Pastrana does. To the point where he jumped 52 cars on a motorcycle, and I actually thought, this is mild for a Travis Pastrana stunt, actually. It's quite doable and believable. You're listening to all new Nuga Radio and NugaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. So the outcry of unfairness and this is rigged is still raining down on us. Fans are now talking to the president of the Players Union. Well, not talking to her. There's so much they're taunting her and doing all the things that weird Twitter trolls do. Basically blaming her because they're blaming everybody for the fact that DeMarcus Cousins has gone to the Golden State Warriors and that team is loaded and stacked. They're loaded. DeMarcus Cousins is an all-star. So he joins 4 other all-stars. If DeMarcus Cousins gets to be healthy and comes back for the Warriors, that's an all-star team. Steph Curry, all-star. Klay Thompson, all-star. Kevin Durant, all-star. Draymond Green, all-star. And now DeMarcus Cousins, a.k.a. Boogie, all-star. And it seems unfair. And I understand why fans are mad. But you can't blame the Warriors. And you can't blame DeMarcus Cousins. You can't blame the commissioner. The commissioner cannot stop free agent signings. People wanted him to step in and stop that. And I don't like the precedent that sets. They broke up that trade that would have sent Chris Paul to the Lakers back in the day. They broke that trade up, but partially that was because the NBA owned one of the teams involved in the trade. So of course they can step in and strike that down. The now Pelicans did not have an owner at the time. But the fact that the league could step in and stop a free agent signing simply because it looks unfair is stupid. Because anytime the commissioner feels like a free agent signing might be unfair, he would have to step in and strike it down. And that's a crazy precedent. Because first it'll be when it's obviously unfair. And then at some point it's going to be, well, what's your definition of unfair? Is it slightly unfair? Is it vaguely unfair? I hate to tell you the news, but the whole point of NBA free agency and teams trying to acquire players is to be unfair. You're trying to get better than all the other schmucks. You're trying to be better than all of these other people. You're trying to be unfair. And it doesn't make any sense if you're a great team not to be even greater. And it doesn't make any sense for the league to stop that. The league has to let that run. They do. They cannot step in and stop this free agent signing. Right? There are people that are saying, oh, DeMarcus Cousins is a Warrior. I'm done watching basketball. If the league ever steps in and stops a free agent signing, I'm done watching basketball. That's too far. That's way too far. Then that'd be too much power for a front office to have. And isn't that the reason y'all are mad at Roger Goodell? That he's a league office member with way too much power? Why would it be fine for you to do this with Adam Silver? Why would you all be cool with that? I'm not entirely certain how that goes. But so Adam Silver, he's not the reason that DeMarcus Cousins is a Warrior. You can't blame him. Who do you blame? You blame the other 27 teams in the NBA because they all had a chance to sign DeMarcus Cousins and they all couldn't. Well, all right. Maybe they didn't all have a chance to sign him. DeMarcus Cousins took the mid-level exception, which is the lowest amount of money that he could be paid to be a Golden State Warrior. In order to qualify for the mid-level exception as a basketball team, you have to be in two places. You have to be both above the salary cap, which the league imposes to try and make everything fair and make everything equal. So there's a limit to how much you can spend on every single team. But you can go above the salary cap because the NBA has a soft salary cap. But you have to be below the luxury tax. So there's a sweet spot in the middle. If you go over the luxury tax, then for every $1 million you go over the luxury tax, that is how much you pay out to the rest of the league. And they all collectively share in the money you're paying out. So in order to qualify for the mid-level exception, you have to be above the salary cap, but below the luxury tax. So that's like half the teams in the league right there can't even sign DeMarcus Cousins because they didn't qualify to even offer a mid-level exception. So you've got a bunch of teams left, actually. Teams like the Pelicans themselves, who could have offered DeMarcus Cousins even more money than that. The Wizards, for one. The Raptors, the Clippers. There was a bunch of teams that were able to offer DeMarcus Cousins, about 9 or 10 teams that could have offered him that mid-level exception. So why didn't they? Because DeMarcus Cousins is recovering from a torn Achilles tendon. And because of that injury, it's a substantial injury. He got the injury last year, and people act like if you get an injury over the course of an NBA season, then at the end of the offseason, you'll be fine. DeMarcus Cousins is not playing basketball until February. Mark my words. He's not playing basketball until over halfway through next season. He tore his Achilles. It is without a doubt the most feared injury in sports. Kobe Bryant, torn Achilles, never came back. Isaiah Thomas, torn Achilles, never came back. Great players have torn their Achilles and never came back. And to my mind, only Dominique Wilkins has torn his Achilles and come back just as good as he was before. And that's not a fair standard to hold anybody to. Dominique Wilkins is an actual freak. So DeMarcus Cousins has a torn Achilles. So eliminate some of the teams that aren't willing to take that risk. So it has to be a team that thinks it can already make the playoffs. All right. Well, then, name a team now that's got the cap space to do it. Oh, guess you can't have the Wizards do it. They don't have the cap space. And then narrow that down to places that DeMarcus Cousins would actually want to go. For instance, the Spurs were one of the teams that could have offered DeMarcus Cousins a deal. But can you imagine DeMarcus Cousins being coached by Greg Popovich? Can you just imagine it with me? Close your eyes. Unless you're driving, then don't close your eyes. And imagine with me a world in which DeMarcus Cousins is being coached by the angriest coach in the league. The angriest coach attempting to corral the angriest player in the league. That, to me, is humor incarnate. And I wish that he would have signed with the Spurs, but he didn't. He signed with the Warriors. It makes the most sense. It's the team that gives you the chance to actually recover. They don't need you, so you don't have to be rushed back from your Achilles injury. It's the team that gives you a chance to win a title. When you do come back, they're the best team in the league. They don't even need you to do all that much work. Do what you can. Leave everything up to KD and Steph and Clay and Draymond. It makes the most sense for him to have gone to Golden State. But then, also, according to DeMarcus Cousins' agent, nobody called him. Nobody called him. Now, the Pelicans dispute this. They have told the local New Orleans paper the Times Picayune that they did. But if you were to believe DeMarcus Cousins' agent, nobody called him. So yeah, I'm not going to blame the Warriors for getting richer. I'm not going to blame Adam Silver, the commissioner, for not interfering in a marketplace. I'm not going to blame the head of the players union. You know who I'm going to blame? The other 27 people who couldn't figure out how to make themselves attractive enough for DeMarcus Cousins to go there. Touch with Keon Rose, New Radio 97 FM.
Hi, David Toulis. I made the move, and I hope you will too. David Toulis.